Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast. We're talking football today. We got Justin Spears. Can the team still go bowling? I don't know. We're about to find out. Don't go anywhere. Leave a like.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I am your host, Damon Fairall, Damon Dog. That is Kevin Thomas, otherwise known as Kevo Posts. And like I said, we are the AZ Wildcats pod, coming to you live from downtown Phoenix at PHNX HQ3, Kevin. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention off the top that this show is presented by our friends over at Branded Bills as well. Head on over to brandedbills.com. Check out the premium headwear and apparel. Support a local company right here in the state of Arizona that is making big waves nationally. And use our promo code BBPHNX. Get 15% off your first order. Kevin, it is a very special day today. We're going to be talking about Arizona Wildcats football, kind of the almost a mid-season review point, right? Because this bye, despite it being through 7 weeks instead of 6, is pretty smack dab in the middle of the season for the Wildcats. So who better to bring on than our guy Justin Spears, of course, to help give our midseason review and just kind of talk about what we've seen thus far. But yeah, how we doing today, Kevin?
Doing good, doing great. Excited to hear about how Houston was for our guy Justin Spears. That was a big-time game. Unfortunately, Arizona could not pull out the victory in it. Yeah, like you said, we're kind of doing like a state of the program in a lot of ways today with Justin, as we just have crossed over the halfway point. Damon, very happy to be here live on a Wednesday as well. Very unusual for you and I on a bye week this week for Arizona football, and Arizona basketball not tipping off against Embry-Riddle until Monday. So yeah, very excited to talk to our guy Justin Spears. And without further ado, here's the man, the myth, the legend himself. Justin Spears, how you doing?
Fellas, good to see you. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I think I'd be remiss to not start today's pod with a pop quiz for you, Justin. Pop quiz.
Oh, boy. I was terrible at these. Okay.
What's a power play, Justin?
So it's when one team scores in hockey and they have more players than the other team.
Close enough. It's when a team gets penalized in hockey and they lose a player,
Yes.
and then the other team goes up in a man or woman, and then they're at the man or woman advantage for the power play. Damon might be like, where is this coming from? I was listening to Spears and Ali.
I saw your tweet, brother.
I was listening to Spears and Ali, which everyone else should do here in our chat. You should listen to Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson every morning. And they were talking a little bit of everything, and I discovered that our guy Justin did not know what a power play was. Mr. Big J did not know that. But you learn something new every day, and I'm glad that we can start here, Justin. But in all honesty, how are you doing? How was your trip to Houston?
No, the trip to Houston was great, man. It was honestly, Houston's a great place. Now, the support for the Cougars, like a lot of other big cities, it can be better because, Houston's in a pro town, right? They love the Texans. They love the Rockets. They have pro sports that they can pay attention to. So the support for the Cougars, it's not as good for football as it is, let's say basketball. But I think all in all, Houston is a great city. Pound for pound, one of the best food cities that I've been to in the Big 12. It's certainly not Tucson, Arizona, but shout out to my guy, Bun B. Was that, David?
I said, what is Tucson? Sorry, I wasn't trying to pull you off your game. I was just trying to big up our city.
Yeah, dude, Tucson is honestly the best food city you will ever go to. So I will never, outside of, maybe like a place like Los Angeles, but just because it's so big and there's so many different, cultures and whatnot. But man, Tucson is the best food city I've ever been to. And with that being said, it was a good trip for me. Maybe not the best trip for the Arizona Wildcats football team as they go into this last 5-game stretch of the season with a 4-3 record. And, one thing about, the current feel of the program right now is they had to get that win against Houston, because you feel much different about the team 5-2 at this point as opposed to 4-3. And then you're going into this bye week having to sit on not just a loss on the road to Houston, but that's after the week where you lost to BYU in double overtime fashion. So right now Arizona knows they could very well be 6-1 right now, but here they are 4-3. And we're really going to see what this team is made of over the next 5 games.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting place, right? Because Justin, you're so close to the team. You're obviously talking to the coaches and players on a weekly basis here. And this team, it feels like, has been very lockstep despite the BYU loss. You know, there was a lot of sentiment of like, this is a very good football team. We feel like we should have won that game. We know we should have won that game. You had Les Fafita, and we brought that up on your last appearance, Justin, talk about how, you know, this felt like kind of that triple OT loss to USC before the 2023 team reeled off that incredible end to the season. And then obviously it culminated in another loss against Houston in another game that Arizona probably feels like it could have won, right? So how is the mentality of that locker room right now? Has it changed at all with another loss here against Houston?
Yeah, after talking with Max Harris and Noah Fafita, they didn't really seem like they were giving up on the season. I know a lot of these guys, they love the culture. They love what's being built at Arizona right now. So you're going to see maximum effort, and you're going to see these guys continue to play hard and continue to fight hard. And I feel like that's really one thing that's kind of hard for, some Arizona fans to grasp, right? It's like, okay, there's no moral victories. You got to show improvement on the scoreboard and also in the wins and loss column. But, even though that Arizona's record could be better, they could very well be 6-1 right now. But, they were also getting smoked week in and week out. So, I mean, Arizona, sure, they're 4-3 right now, but 2 of those games are, games where Arizona was right there. They lost by a walk-off field goal. They lost on the last play in double overtime, in which they could have extended the game. So it's been a rough couple of weeks, but, Arizona fans also have to understand that this team is significantly better than it was last year. And I know last year's team had the better NFL talent, but if you look at just how competitive they are, I think that this team has made some significant improvements. And right now, this team just has to figure out ways to win these close games. I mean, right now, it almost seems like, going back to that BYU game, like they're playing not to lose. And you got to figure out ways to just put the hammer down on teams. You got to figure out ways to close out BYU. Arizona had a good opportunity to go up by 2 scores in that game against Houston. And then what happened? They had that 4th down stop. Houston was able to get the ball back. They scored, and then all the momentum went towards their side, and all of a sudden, Arizona is trailing 21-14 at halftime when they could very well be up by 2 scores. But then Arizona goes down 28-14. And that's when I was like, okay, let's see what Arizona team we're going to get moving forward after being down by 2 touchdowns. And they came back and rallied, and they tied the game. They were down by 2 touchdowns against BYU, came back and rallied. So this team has a lot of fight. I think they have they have really good mental fortitude, and they figure out ways to stay in games and be competitive. And I think that is a big, big jump from last year. And I feel like Brent Brennan said, they're pounding the rock. Eventually, it's going to break through, and eventually these close games against good opponents are going to turn into victories. But there is one concern for this team, and it could be the blueprint moving forward, and it could be the reason why Arizona maybe loses the rest of the games. I don't think that's going to happen, but BYU and Houston showed if you have that 1-2 punch of a really good running back and a mobile quarterback, this team really doesn't have an answer. I mean, Trey Smith is a huge loss for Arizona, and you've seen it now in the last 2 games, right? Arizona's been without Trey Smith. They're starting defensive end for 2 games, and look what happened there. I'm not going to sit here and say that Trey Smith is the reason why they gave up 490 rushing yards over the last couple of games combined, but that's a concern for Arizona. And here's the thing, though. The first 5 games of the season, they gave up a total of 488 rushing yards in 5 games. That's an average of just under 100 yards per game. They gave up 490 in the last 2 games. They gave up more rushing yards in the last 2 games than the first 5. So this rushing defense has showed that they can play at a high level, but now it's up to Danny Gonzalez and that defense to make the tweaks and make the adjustments to make sure that whatever happened against BYU and Houston doesn't happen again.
And, we were talking about this recently on the show, Spears, in terms of that BYU loss and the Houston loss, almost kind of showing that BYU's offensive coordinator kind of wrote a blueprint for how to defeat this Danny Gonzalez, or at least this iteration of the Danny Gonzalez Arizona defense. Do you anticipate that, that might be the case, and that some teams that excel with rushing quarterbacks down the stretch, like a Sam Levitt, or like, I'm not saying Jalen Daniels is a rushing quarterback, but he can move, right? Brennan Sorsby can move a little bit as well. Caden Salter and Colorado have been known to move their quarterbacks around. Do you think that this is something that can be remedied in the last 5 games for Arizona? Or do you think that this is unfortunately tending towards a trend for Arizona?
Well, I mean, I figured that they were going to make the adjustments after the BYU game, and they didn't make the adjustments then. I was wondering, what the game plan was going to look like with guys like Riley Wilson. Maybe we start to see him get some action more because, he didn't really play much in that game against Houston. And he's been a really big contributor when it comes to stopping plays, right? He's been very effective on that front. So, maybe they get Riley Wilson more involved in those outside linebackers with, him and Chase Kennedy. Maybe they help out with that. But I do feel like, Danny Gonzalez is a good defensive coordinator. I mean, he's a really good coach. I mean, that side of the ball, I mean, they're top 15 or top 20 in defense right now. Like, this is still one of the best defenses in the Big 12 at the moment. And so Danny Gonzalez, I think, will make the right adjustments. And I think, that side of the ball will get right. But, it doesn't really look well for Arizona when you look at the upcoming opponents because, you got Cincinnati on the road in November. It's going to get cold. So that Cincinnati is going to really rely on that run game. And they have 3 players that are in the top 16 of rushing yards in the Big 12 this season, including their quarterback, Brennan Sorsby. I always whenever I watch Cincinnati, I'm like, man, if only Rich Rodriguez was coaching these guys, man, they would be freaking running the table right now in the Big 12. But that's a really good running team. And the Bearcats are going to give Arizona all sorts of problems up there in Cincinnati. And Jalen Daniels, like you said, he's not really a mobile quarterback, but he's definitely capable of running and putting together some nice runs. Kind of similar to like Rocco Becht. Rocco Becht is a tough quarterback with a lot of moxie. But from time to time, he can break out for that long run. And Caden Salter, the Arizona's upcoming opponent, he is not built like a Tonka truck like Bear Bachmeier and Connor Wegman. Like those guys are 6'3", 210, 215 pounds. I'm like, they're built like big body quarterbacks, like running backs essentially. And so I don't know if we're going to see quarterback power with Caden Salter, but again, a quarterback that's very capable of moving when he can. So the quarterback runs and how that is schemed up against Arizona is going to be something that I'm paying attention to moving forward. But, if they can stop that, if they can stop the run, we already know how good the guys are on the back end with, Genesis Smith and Dalton Johnson and Traden Stukes. I think this defense will get right. And another thing that Brent Brennan mentioned that, I looked more into was missed tackles and how that's really been a problem for Arizona, which really wasn't the problem at the start of the season. Arizona was a really good job as a tackling team, but against some of these really tough teams that are known to get a lot of yak and yards after contact and whatnot, you got to have population at the football, as Brent Brennan says, and you got to be able to bring players down. And that's not just in the running game, in the passing game too. If you guys remember that first touchdown by Amari Thomas, Houston's big-bodied wide receiver, he broke like 3 tackles. Michael Dansby, bit and tried to jump the pass and get that interception. He falls. And then Amari Thomas breaks away from not just Traden Stukes, but also Dalton Johnson, 2 of maybe Arizona's best tacklers. And he was able to, get by those guys. They have to bring players down and, get those plays that are normally these chunk plays. If you keep them at these, 3-yard plays, 4-yard plays, and keep, teams into these 3rd and long situations, that's going to be better for Arizona.
I wasn't, to be completely honest with you, Justin, I didn't come away from Saturday's game and think to myself, man, Dean Connors was unbelievable. Although he did have 100 yards rushing on 20 carries. Like, it was a good game, but for me, it was a lot more of the Connor Wigman rushes that were like the concern for Arizona's defense, especially after the week that Bear Bachmeier just had in the second half. In particular, Bear Bachmeier had. Do you think that this is a product at all of the light box that comes with having a 3-3-5 defense like Danny Gonzalez likes to run? I feel like that's, to make a very more complicated issue simple, like that feels like kind of what's happening here, right? Is that the pass defense is so good because there's an extra DB on the field all the time, which is modern football, to be fair, but the rush defense is almost taking a hit because it's a lighter box.
Yeah, and they have several linebackers too that are stepping out, and they're getting out into pass coverage as well. And the way that Danny Gonzalez has his defense set up, I mean, he made a very interesting point. It goes back to when he was learning the Rocky Long defense at New Mexico, was that really in that scheme, the safeties are the linebackers. Right? You don't know which way Dalton Johnson's going to line up. You don't know which way Genesis Smith is going to line up. And it's a very similar role that Brian Urlacher played at New Mexico. And that's why Brian Urlacher put up like historic numbers when he was with the Lobos. And Danny said that, Urlacher was a really good tackler. He was a really good hitter. But as far as pass coverage, maybe not the best guy. And that's why he was such a good linebacker at the NFL, because he played safety at New Mexico. But that role in that defense, you're essentially a linebacker. And so that kind of defense, it allows the safeties to rack up a bunch of tackles. And then usually the guys that are below them are the two middle linebackers. And then the guys below them are the two defensive tackles. But I think you're right, Damon. I think the fact that they have such a light box, and also, the defensive linemen, I mean, they don't really have a bunch of like big guys that they can put out there, right? Like they have Deshaun McKnight, they have Tia Savea, and those guys are rock solid. But, if you look at the players behind them, Zach Ciulepa is starting to slowly work his way in. I expect him to get some more reps moving forward. And then you also have Maze Pesse, who's a really good freshman, but he's also a freshman. So right now, I think Danny Gonzalez is trying to figure out the mix and what works. And I think we're going to see a better we're going to see improvement from the defensive line and, stopping the run. But yeah, I just feel like the way the defense is with those safeties, don't be alarmed with Genesis and Dalton getting all of those tackles, because I think that's just the way that the defense is schemed up.
And I do want to talk more defense with you, Justin. I also want to get into your overall opinion on the state of Arizona football under Brent Brennan after our first break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So leave a like, drink your water, and most importantly, don't go anywhere. Unless you're going to our friends over at Zen Leaf Dispensary. Now, Damon, if you want the best selection of flowers, edibles, vapes, all your favorite THC, CBD related product, Zen Leaf Dispensary is your go-to spot for just that. Locations all across the valley, Damon. And you know what the worst part about going to a dispensary is most of the time? You want to load up. You don't want to go every single couple days. You want to load up, get yourself a little bit of a stash to relax, or however you utilize these products, right? But the problem is the cost can really, really rack up quickly with these types of products. So that's why we got your back. PHNX, Zen Leaf Dispensaries, we got your back. Use code ZEN, PHNX, for 50% off, half off of a one-time purchase. Does not even have to be a first-time purchase.
You say 50?
50 off of a one-time purchase with our friends over at Zen Leaf Dispensary using promo code ZEN, Z-E-N, PHNX. The next time you're pre-gaming, post-gaming, or just need to chill after a bad week of fantasy football, if you're Ayrton Temko, because he got the belt this week. Don't forget, for a limited time only, use promo code ZEN, PHNX, for half off of a one-time purchase. Zen Leaf, great weed, great service every single time.
Speaking of fantasy football, Kevin, I'm in last place right now on Waffle Watch because apparently Max Simpson has won 2 games in a row, which I wasn't aware of.
Yes.
And me and you play this week.
Moving
on.
A lot on the line.
I already told you about our presenting sponsor, Branded Bills, but I need to tell you guys a little bit more about just my favorite headwear apparel company in the game. They have over 40 partnerships with universities, but we only care about one of those. It is the University of Arizona, and they have taken over the University of Arizona hat game, Kevin. Whenever we go down to the bookstore, we have to make a special stop at the Branded Bills section where there are limited edition caps that you can't find anywhere else. They also have a great selection on their website at brandedbills.com, and they have the ultimate Arizona Wildcats headwear and apparel in the game if you're looking for something fresh, whether it's a trucker fitted beanie or a t-shirt. Branded Bills has you covered. And they also partner with the Phoenix Suns for people out there that potentially want to get in on that. I have this limited edition Diamondbacks hat on my head.
It's beautiful.
Kevin. It's not one that they even sell. It was given to season ticket holders. We have some connects here at PHNX. No big deal. But I cherish this hat dearly because it is special. It's limited edition, and a limited edition Branded Bills cap is hard to beat. It's a local company out of Mesa, Arizona. Guys, go support them because they support us. Support local. BBPHNX, 15% off your first order over at brandedbills.com.
And Justin, as I can see, you have followed my instructions. You're drinking your water, and I really appreciate that because it's hydrate or dihydrate. You know what I mean? You either hydrate or you dihydrate. But I do want to talk to you about the overall place that Brent Brennan is at with Arizona football right now. I think a lot of fans we know where the fan support is with Brent Brennan, right? It's very fickle. It's very related to the victory or loss in the win column or loss column there. But where do you stand with Arizona football under Brent Brennan? Do you believe the program is moving in the right direction?
The program is moving in the right direction. And last year was him keeping the band together and just trying to keep everybody happy and doing whatever he could to keep that momentum that Jedd Fisch was able to build up. And I feel like maybe he could have been in a better position if everybody just entered the transfer portal and, you could really go into this thing with a fresh slate. And Brent Brennan has all the runway in the world to build up the program. But, he had a disastrous first season, and that kind of left a sour taste in the mouths of Arizona fans. And now Arizona fans are like, okay, what are you going to do in year two? With the transfer portal, because, that element of college football, you can really turn things around quickly, right? So you've got the transfer portal. You have a whole year of recruiting. What are you going to do, Brent Brennan? And I thought he did a nice job of getting the staff right. I think Seth Doege was a great hire. And, Seth Doege, this is his first time as an offensive play caller at the Power 4 level. Now, with that being said, he did a great job at Marshall. But now he's at the Power 4 level. Yeah, there's still going to be, some steps along the way that Seth Doege is going to learn. I think that Danny Gonzalez, as much of a veteran as he is, there's some things that he is learning along the way, like tweaking Arizona's rushing defense, which we should see here moving forward. Everybody is at the right seat at the table. Joe Salavea, in my opinion, was the best coaching hire of the offseason for Arizona. And they have done such a great job of acquiring talent. Like when you look at the guys who are really impacting Arizona this year, when Javen Watley first committed to Arizona, did you guys think that this guy was going to be leading the Wildcats in receiving yards and catches and all of that? I mean, I certainly didn't think so. Trey Spivey, I kind of thought, okay, he might be like a developmental player. I didn't think that he would have 6 touchdowns on 11 touches this season. And then, Deshaun McKnight at defensive tackle. The guys that they got on the offensive line from the transfer portal, I think, have been impressive or have gotten better, like Ty Buchanan and Tristan Bounds. So, like, all the guys that are, that they acquired in the offseason, the 60-plus newcomers, a lot of these guys are really doing a good job of contributing and helping out Arizona be in position to win football games. And so I think with, so many new faces on the team, plus Noah Fafita is playing football without Tetairoa McMillan as his teammate. And he's learning to be a runner in this new system under Seth Doege. And, oh, by the way, 3rd offensive system in 3 years for Noah Fafita. So the program is moving in the right direction. And, another thing, a lot of the guys that are on this year's team, they can all come back. Like Genesis Smith could realistically come back next season. Noah Fafita is probably going to come back and be teammates with his brother who's coming in. I love the recruiting class that they have. Oscar Rios is the future of Arizona football. And I also think Keatron Harris, the defensive lineman, people are really going to love this guy when he comes over to the Wildcats. So the program is trending in the right direction. Recruiting has been solid. I feel like Brent Brennan and his staff, they're doing a much better job of getting out into the community and making people feel connected to this program. They learned a lot of harsh lessons in that first year. And now, slowly but surely, they're getting this thing back on track. Sure, it's been a couple of tough losses, but right now the state of the program is much better than it was a year ago. And I feel like in year 3, that's when you're really going to see Brent Brennan and this team start to take flight. And it's a really good culture right now. The players love to play for Brent Brennan. And I think, all is good with Arizona football despite a 4-3 record.
I will say though, does your answer change even if they don't make a bowl game this year? Like if the season goes, because obviously it's possible that they make a bowl game, and this follow-up question is completely mute. But I think it's relevant to ask. Like if Arizona is unable to make it to the bowl game this year, they make it to 5 wins. Let's say they come up 1 game short. Would your answer then be the same? Obviously, the optics on those losses could change everything, I feel like. But in general, is that dependent on a bowl game for you, or is that the opinion you have irregardless of a result?
And this is such a hard conversation, and I was actually talking about it with Ali today. How would Arizona fans feel if they went 5-7, but they beat ASU?
I see you asked that question, Justin, and I'm not even going to provide my answer because I have my own personal vendettas and takes and beefs and stuff going on. And that would do a lot for me, I think, career-wise and professionally. So I think that one I will maybe go ahead and let Kevin answer, because I don't even know if I can answer from like a true Arizona fan perspective. It almost would mean too much to me just personally in my everyday life.
I will say, and as Bill, one of our MVP members in the chat, says, that's a loaded question.
It is.
It is a loaded question.
Really good question.
Because I almost think like it would be, and I really want the Wildcats to beat the Sun Devils this year. But I think it's almost giving them too much credit.
Wouldn't that be 6 losses in a row? Am I getting that wrong? That would be 6 losses in a row, correct?
Yeah.
Oof.
I feel like if I say that I'd rather beat ASU and miss out on a bowl than go to a bowl game, I feel like I'm giving ASU too much power in the rivalry. You know what I mean? So give me the bowl game. Let us go get the opportunity to beat somebody in a game that means something to the country that isn't just in Arizona. Damn, that's a tough one, Justin. But I think I'm gonna go bowl game. I do think I would rather them win a bowl game or go to a bowl game than beat ASU this year, because I don't want to be little brother. I don't want to be little brother.
I feel that. So is that 6 losses, Damon? Because they've lost 2 straight games now, and they have 5 games left. So leading up to that game, so 6 straight losses.
That'd be tough.
But I always think about that 2016 season where they went 3-9, and no one remembers them going 3-9. They just remember them preventing ASU from going to a bowl game, and also setting a school rushing record. And I mean, they attempted a run every single play in that second half, and literally ran ASU off the field. And that was such a celebratory moment. No one remembers the 3-9 season, but they remember that magical night when Arizona beat ASU down in Tucson. I think that Arizona, they have to get to 6 wins before that Territorial Cup game, because man, if you're a 5-win team and you're going into that Territorial Cup game against a ranked ASU team that's a really good opponent, man, this might get very, very interesting.
That's the opposite of what we just talked about, where I'm riding high and I feel pretty good and no one's coming after me. If that's what ends up happening, I fear for what my mentions on social media will look like. It might get nasty if ASU prevents Arizona from getting a bowl game. But I got to say that I do agree with you in the sense, Justin, that it's clear as day. This team is getting better. They did a really good job, I think, in the transfer portal, especially bringing in lower level group 5 guys, FCS transfers, and those guys have performed admirably. They've shown that they can talent evaluate, bring these guys in, get them to commit. I think that the issue herein lies that, like, if the optics of your season is again in 2 years we have not made a bowl game, I feel like that's almost, you're making it probably not on this current cycle of recruits that have already committed to Arizona, but in the transfer portal and in the next high school class, I feel like it would be very difficult to convince those kids that, when there's a real lack of fan support in the crowd because you've gone 2 years without making a bowl game and no one believes in Brent Brennan really in Tucson anymore. And then, why are kids wanting to commit to that program all of a sudden? I feel that that's the fear that, like, if Arizona doesn't make a bowl game, it could halt all progress that's been made. And the progress is undeniable, but is that enough to really, like, topple the entire Jenga tower,
Yeah, and then you also have to think about the future and how that looks, just both, in the near future and also long term, right? Let's look at the near future. Okay, you're getting rid of Brent Brennan. What does that mean for Noah Fafita, who's got 1 year of eligibility left at the U of A? Do they wait for the next coach and then they make their decision? There's a lot of things that you have to think about when making that decision. But I feel like the way that this Arizona team is playing, they had that game against BYU. I don't agree with taking the knee with 19 seconds left. And I understand, like Brent Brennan was saying, like BYU had a kicker that could make it from 60. And he really loved Arizona's defense in the way that they played in that moment, which is true. Like, I agree with all that, but I'm like,
you know what's not true? Sorry to cut you off, Justin. That man is not Tyler Loop. And we just got to watch how we talk about our beloved Tyler Loop. We can't just be calling anybody Tyler Loop-like,
Sure. So Tyler Loop-esque, right?
Yes.
It's not quite Tyler Loop, but, in the ballpark. And he's got a hell of a leg. I will give him that.
He does.
But my thing is like, okay, you trust your defense. I get that. You don't want to give the ball to them so their kicker can make a long field goal. I get that. But, man, what about, confidence in the offense, right? Moving the ball down the field in a couple of plays in 19 seconds. How about Michael Sagana-Medina, who made a 57-yarder the week prior? So that was really the only thing that I kind of, push back on when it comes to, the coaching decisions. But, I totally get what Brent Brennan is doing. I mean, Brent Brennan has more football knowledge in one fingernail than I do my entire body. There's a reason why I'm doing a podcast and he's coaching a Power 4 football program. Brent Brennan is a good coach. But right now, this team, they got to figure out ways to win these close games. When you're in a position to win a football game, when you're in a position to come up with a stop, and Arizona's defense had 2 chances to come up with a stop, both in overtime against BYU. Heck, the end of regulation. I mean, they had, 9 plays near the goal line to get it in for a touchdown to put that game into overtime.
I think it was 12 in the red zone alone.
Yeah, something like that. It was crazy. And then that last drive against Houston, all you had to do was stop them. And then you're going to overtime. And I like Arizona's chances against the Cougars in the overtime period. So Arizona had chances to win both of those games, and they didn't. But now they go into a bye week. They get to hit the reset button, and they're going to be going up against a Colorado team that's playing against Utah this week. And Utah, they're looking to bounce back from losing to BYU last week. This is going to be an ice bath game for Colorado. They're going to feel it. Like, I think Utah is going to really impose their will on the Buffaloes and, kind of rough them up a little bit, which could be good for Arizona because you're coming off a bye week and you're going up against a team that's going up against one of the toughest teams in the conference. So yeah, we'll see what kind of, team that we're going to see from Arizona on the road. But I feel like that is a game that Arizona should win. And I feel like this is a must-win game for the Arizona Wildcats. And if they don't win this game, then it's going to get very interesting because now you're 4-4 and you got to come up with 2 wins, and 2 of those games are on the road against Cincinnati and ASU. It doesn't look good for Arizona after that point, but I think that they can beat Colorado. And then I also feel like they can beat Baylor as well. And who knows, the way that college football is going right now, what if this season gets out of hand for Baylor? Usually at this point of the year is when Baylor starts to turn it up, and then Dave Aranda holds on to his job. Like, Dave Aranda was on a hot seat last year, And then Baylor had this great, second half of the season. And then Dave Aranda was like, oh, okay, I get to keep my job for another year. And right now, and that seat's a little warm down there in Waco, Texas. And there could be a possibility that Baylor is without their coach, because that seems to be the thing nowadays in college football, all these midseason firings. It's been crazy this year when it comes to that. So maybe they get a Baylor team with an interim coach. We'll see. I feel like this game coming up against Colorado and then Baylor, and then Kansas at home, those are your three best chances of getting to 6-6 and getting to bowl eligibility. But I really feel like you've got to win one of these road games. And I feel like there's a really good opportunity to do that against Colorado.
Lots of things for Brent Brennan to prove when it comes to winning road games in particular. And we're going to talk about the Colorado game and the rest of the season. And I got some analytics to show on just in terms of like the percentage chances that Kelly Ford ratings gives Arizona to win each particular game, get 6 wins, and go bowling this season. But Justin, right before we go to break here, I need to ask you and give you one chance to talk about a tweet that you tweeted right after the game was over. And you basically said, I'm not a ref guy, but that was brutal. And between the bobbled catch out of bounds that was reviewed for 5 minutes, the sideline infraction that has since been apologized for to Bobby Wade that happened directly afterward, the really weird multiple flags thrown for the illegal shift formation that for some reason we just decided that would impact the game too much, so we're going to pick them up. And Houston, God forbid, they have a penalty called on them. And maybe the most egregious one, the defensive pass interference called in favor of Amari Thomas when Amari Thomas committed assault against, I believe, Aiden Garnes on that play. So
threw him to the ground.
So Justin, what did you see from the officials in that game, and just how impactful have they been over really the last 2 games, but the last game against Houston in particular?
Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles could have called a better game than that, man. Seriously, like
he wanted to see though, so he would have done just fine.
Stevie can't see. That I know. I buy that conspiracy theory that Stevie can't see.
Oh, I thought you said Stevie can't see. I was like, I know he probably can't.
No, we're keeping it going. So, little inside baseball here, Justin. One of our other producers, Noah, really loves Stevie Wonder, and Kevin peddled that conspiracy theory to him one time, and he got really offended by it.
He doesn't get offended by very much. But
no,
he legitimately was like dude, you can't say that.
So that's and Kevin are we're letting that fly. That's our rolling conspiracy forever now.
You're telling me Jamie Foxx just made up the story about Stevie taking his car for a lap around the block? Maybe he did, but I want to believe that it's true. Anyway, Justin, you were talking about the blind refs.
Dude, they're so bad, man. The one on Bobby Wade, I was just kind of confused by, because I was like, wait, they're just giving him the penalty. Like, there's no warning, nothing. Okay. Did he like say something about his mother? Yeah. Like, I don't know what the hell was said. And come to find out, it was just really an official that was on a power trip that accidentally, bumped into Bobby Wade. And I mean, I just think about, word, because I look back and I'm like, well, was Bobby Wade on like the other side of the field or the sideline? Because like, I didn't see anything. I legitimately did not see a damn thing. And so that was a bad penalty. And the worst part about that was on a second and long, if I'm not mistaken. And that was a part of that like back-breaking 17-play drive. And on that drive was the bobbled catch near the sideline. And I'm like, oh, that's coming back. Even the announcers were like, oh, yeah, that's not a catch. That's coming back. And they ruled it a catch. And I'm like, wow. Oh, okay. And then the passing interference call on, was it Aiden Garnes, right?
I believe so.
I kid you not, guys. People that were sitting near me in the press box, I literally heard the term OPI. And I'm like, oh, I agree with you. Offensive passing interference. Totally. They called it on Aiden Garnes, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I am not really one to sit there and say, like, officials, come on, man, what are you doing? That legitimately was one of the worst officiated football games I have ever seen at the Power 4 level. And then the illegal motion on Dean Connors. Like, he was moving. But so what? Are you going to sit there and be like, no, because then it might make the field goal longer. And if they miss this field goal and Houston ends up losing the game, then we're going to look like the bad guys here. And it's like, you don't have to, dude, you're already the bad guy. You're the official. Okay. Sorry. That's just the way it is. You make that call. You make it every day of the weekend, twice on Sunday. And the fact that they were like, oh no, we're going to wave this off. I was like, bro, what are we doing here? If I'm Brent Brennan, I am like, I'm making a scene. But then again, I think Brent Brennan was very smart, because let's say Brent Brennan just loses his top and is like just mother bleeping the dude. And
damn it, I want that call. Damn it, you can't. Damn it.
Well, and then the referee's like, oh, bet, and flags them. And then all of a sudden Arizona's getting the penalty. And then what is the narrative like? Oh, Brent Brennan couldn't keep his cool. Look at him impacting Arizona. So
in defense of Brent Brennan, like, losing his top though, and I'm not trying to like be a joker here when I say this. I mean it sincerely. He's not calling plays, right? Like, he is like a CEO kind of a coach. So if he did want to make a scene, right, make a statement, which he does not do often. So if he wanted to pick a spot and almost have like a basketball coach style of like, eject me if you dare kind of thing. I'm going to rile up my team on the road. It's us against the refs. Like, let's do this. Let Daggy run the offense. Like, I trust these guys. Like, they're my right hand and left hand. I could also see that like not being like a bad thing for Brent Brennan, because I think fans really want to see at this point like any fire at all.
And to add on to that, I feel like last week against BYU, you saw it in front of your face. Kalani Sitake did it. Like, BYU had one questionable call go against them. And their coach is utilizing timeouts so that he can extend the period of time that he can scream at the refs for. And if Brent Brennan, maybe the Houston refs had it out for Arizona and Brent Brennan in that game, and they would have had a very low threshold for what they would have considered to be unsportsmanlike conduct on Brent Brennan in that situation. But against BYU, the threshold was pretty damn high. I watched it on my television screen. And then what did it lead to? BYU got every call the rest of the game that was like a 50-50 call. And it was very impactful. And I think that Arizona fans would like to see Brent Brennan in a situation like reciprocate that a little bit, because we just saw it work against us. So it's like almost like, show some fire, man. Show some passion.
Oh, there's some fire. But the thing is like, Brent Brennan isn't the most fiery guy, so the camera is not always on him, right? And so with Arizona coaches in the past, like Rich Rodriguez, right, like Mike Stoops, those guys were known for being the hotheads. So the camera guys for ESPN or whoever's broadcasting the games, like, hey, make sure you get coach's reaction all the time. Brent Brennan isn't really known as that guy, so they're not looking for that reaction. But trust me, Brent Brennan is talking to the refs. He really is. And like I said earlier, I totally get what you're saying, Kevin, about like Seth Daigie's calling the offense, Danny Gonzalez calling the defense. Just freaking lose it and make an example, like make a statement, right? But like I said, with that point of the game with the illegal motion, you get flagged, and all of a sudden that field goal, nothing changes. Yeah. It should be moving back, and that field goal is closer to 50-ish yards. But then you're setting up Houston to or was it Ethan Sanchez? Yeah, you're setting up Ethan Sanchez for essentially a chip shot, and it's going to be an easy field goal. And then, like I said, Arizona fans are going to be like, "Oh, look at Brent Brennan. He cost us the game. That penalty at the end is the reason why they made that field goal." So I feel Brent Brennan, because like the stupidest penalty happened, but you think about the point in the game and you're just like,
yeah, that is a good point.
Damn it.
That video of Brent Brennan, I will probably reference it on this show a gajillion more times before not only this season is over, but next season as well. But Spears, just the video of Brennan. We
want to win the damn game. Was it
you asking the question?
I was the only one there. I was the only one asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah, where his response was like, "Damn it, I want to win the damn game.
I want to win the damn game.
Damn it, I need to win the game. Damn it." And it just was like the most like least angry person I've ever seen. And it doesn't give me joy that our program is in that spot, but it does make me laugh objectively. Before we get you out of here, we do have to hit one more break with Justin here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like, don't go anywhere. Gila River Resorts and Casinos.
Wow. What an intro.
Ha! Yeah, what a casino. Am I right? You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, whether it's concerts, the actual casino itself, some upscale dining at the A Shula Steakhouse, some low scale options. And by low scale, I mean high quality, but low price at Gila River Resorts and Casinos as well. If you want some fancy espresso martinis, they got them. If you just want to go hit the sports book and have a beer with the boys, you can do that as well. If you want to take your girl or your boy out to get a little comedy show action, some ha-has, some hee-hees, Gila River is your spot as well. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Go all in with over 4,500 slots and live table games, or catch all the action at any of their sports books. I am out by their V Kiva location. Damon is a WHP man, Wild Horse Pass man.
Always.
But if you're out by Lone Butte or Santan Mountain, Gila River can be your go-to spot to do you. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
Kevin, we have our Cardinals away watch parties over at Gila, which are so much fun. Hit up those. Check out our events tab on our website at gophnx.com and see when the next one is going to be. But I'm also excited to go to some football games.
Bang.
I will be going to a football game in 2 Saturdays from now in Boulder, Colorado. Kevin, I don't know if you've heard. I will be attending Arizona versus Colorado. And what else place am I going to get my tickets to go to the game other than Game Time? The Game Time app or gametime.co. That's .co on that website. Check out the ultimate ticketing app out there in the business. So much better than, maybe some of the more, some of the older options. This is like a newer, better version of a ticketing app where people can resell their tickets on the app, and Game Time filters out what is the best price point for you. They find the seat in the stadium, what your view is going to be. They show you what that view is going to be before you make a purchase you regret, Kevin. And of course, they have all those ticketing fees right in front of your face, so that you're not, getting shocked by what that price is after you add those tickets to your cart. Game Time is the best. They definitely are not trying to scam you, screw you over like some of these other ticketing sites might. And it's the best interface in the game. When we're talking in ticketing apps, there is no interface like the Game Time app. So guys, check out Game Time today. It's the only place that I'm buying my college football tickets and just my tickets in general. If you want to go to a concert or comedy show, a musical, you name it, guys.
A wrestling
Game Time
event.
has it. Wrestling event at Mullet Arena potentially, as Kevin and Max, our sales guy, are going to. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code PHNX, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Kevin, what time is it?
Game time! Arr, 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 arr.
Love our friends at Game Time.
Welcome back, Justin.
Some ha-ha, some hee-hees. I love it, man.
We were listening to some Michael Jackson, so maybe I was subliminally going to say hee-hee on today's show regardless. But to wrap up today's pod, Justin, I wanted to focus on this Colorado matchup coming up next week just a little bit. We have a lot of time before that game kicks off. However, Brent Brennan's road record, right? Stay tuned for a really cool graphic coming to our socials soon. But his road record doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me, right? Folsom Field can get pretty raucous in Colorado. Do you think that Arizona is truly up against it, considering that Colorado is of a similar tier in the Big 12 as Arizona, and this game is on the road?
Yeah, it doesn't bode well for Arizona. But with that being said, they finally played a close road game, right? They lost their last road contest by a walk-off field goal, where before then, their average margin of defeat was 27.2 points. And then, of course, they won that game against Utah. So I feel like they're making steps on the road. And I feel like this year, Houston is a better team than Colorado. I feel like the Cougars did a nice job in the transfer portal with guys like Connor Wegman, like Amari Thomas. They've added a lot of good players in the transfer portal, where Colorado, this is a team that is trying to figure out life post Shedeur Sanders, post Travis Hunter. They lost a ton of firepower in that receiver room as well. Omarion Miller's a really good wide receiver, but, they also lost Jimmy Horn Jr., LaJohntay Wester, and then Colorado, kind of like last year, they've really struggled running the football. So I feel like, as my dog Barkley, he agrees with me on that. So I feel like this team, this Colorado team, it's going to be a tough test for Arizona. Don't get me wrong. And, they have, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman in the Big 12 in Big Jordan Seaton at left tackle. That guy is a dog with 2 G's. So it is going to be a tough game for Arizona. But you know what? I think that this team coming off a bye week, and meanwhile, Colorado is playing against a very tough Utah team. I feel like that's going to play to Arizona's advantage. And so I think that Arizona will be just fine on the road next week. And I think that the Wildcats, I'm not ready to say that they're going to win this game. I'm not there quite yet, but this will certainly be a one-possession game. And who knows, it might be the game that really sparks the rest of the season for Arizona, because you have that one win, you feel good about yourself after going on the road and winning this game. I feel like the sky's the limit for Arizona after this week or next week.
Kevin, would you mind actually pulling up our Arizona schedule that we have here that actually shows kind of the odds on the games the rest of the season? And the percentage chance of each win, it's pretty insane, man. And I think it goes to show how thin the margin for error is for Arizona, because all these games are so winnable and all these games are so losable. Starting with Colorado at Folsom Field in Boulder, Kelly Ford giving Arizona a 45% chance of winning that game. Next week against Kansas at home, it's 46%. Then, of course, Cincinnati on the road makes sense, 32% being the lowest. Baylor, 53% being that sole representative of a, more likely than not W as we are 8 weeks through this season. And then Arizona State at 36%. Overall, they give Arizona a 71% chance of getting 6 wins and reaching that threshold, 36% chance of 7 wins. So Kelly Ford Ratings thinks Arizona is going to still, get this bowl eligibility handled. But you start with a road game against Colorado in which you say, Justin, it's going to be a 1-score game. Brent Brennan also hasn't performed in 1-score games very well. So it's like, how pivotal is this matchup going in against Colorado? It feels like it could be the entire season, no?
Like I said earlier, this is a must-win game for Arizona. If you're 4-4 after, losing, and let's say it is a tough loss, right? Man, you're 4-4 when you could easily be 7-1 going into a really tough stretch. That's a tough sell, man. That is a tough sell. So now the team shows a lot of fight. Like I said, the last 2 games they were down by 2 touchdowns, and they could have easily folded when things got tough, but they figure out ways to rally in both of those games. And then with that being said, they played against one of those teams that's the only undefeated team left in the Big 12 right now. And then another team in Connor Wegman, who's kind of not Connor Wegman, Houston. He's not the only player on that team, but a team like Houston, led by a really good quarterback in Connor Wegman, those guys have kind of turned into like BYU of this year. Houston wasn't really thought of as this really good team entering this season, and then all of a sudden they're 6-1 right now. BYU last year, they were voted to finish, I think, 14th in the conference, and they ended up becoming one of the top teams in the Big 12. So I feel like Arizona also just lost to 2 really good teams. But now with that being said, this team in Colorado, I mean, this is a team that's rebuilding. I understand that you're on the road, but man, if you go out and lose to these guys, it could be problematic for Arizona down the stretch.
I don't want to totally derail this conversation, but I'm going to slightly. In this Colorado game, just how bad do we need to see more Trace Spivey targets, Justin? I mean, the man has about 50% touchdown to target rate. About that.
Over.
Really?
6 for 11.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I'm bad at math. But yeah.
You are.
The man
That's what I'm here for.
Is better at catching the ball than I am at math. That is a fact. But you see him, the analytics are out there. He's one of the fastest players you've seen this year out there on the football field across the country. He is one of the most effective, most efficient players of catching the football in the country. And he just flat out makes plays. So can you explain to us in layman's terms, where the hell is Trace Spivey, and will we see him against Colorado?
He's like Chris Carter. All I do is catch touchdowns, man. He is he's a really good player. And we talked to Seth Dagey a couple weeks ago about why didn't Trey Spivey, after having this great game against Oklahoma State, where the hell was he against BYU? Well, come to find out, BYU did a really good job of covering Trey Spivey. And then the tight end option, or the check down option, was Sam Olsen, and that was just the better play. That was the better read for Noah Fafita. So BYU did a really good job of covering Trey Spivey. I know that people wanted to see more Trey Spivey, and they wanted to see him get involved more against BYU, but the Cougars did a nice job. And then all of a sudden, you see him against Houston, and look what happened. He had a really good touchdown, a long touchdown catch, that 70-yarders where he broke the tackle and made a big play. And then we saw that jet sweep in the fourth quarter. He can do a little bit of everything. It's up to Arizona to figure out ways to get him open. And also, the defense matters as well. BYU did a really good job against him. Houston did not. And that's why you saw him really have a breakout game again against Houston. And so, yeah, he's a big-time player. Not only is he big, but he's also more athletic than I thought. I thought that going into this year, he was going to be kind of like Tetairoa McMillan from a few years ago, where he was just big, but just kind of more of like a possession receiver, a guy that's going to make plays near the sidelines. But he's also a guy that has a lot of yak and can make plays with his legs as well. I've been very impressed with Trey Spivey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, where Kevin and I are at, and the BYU game is, let's put it aside and say that BYU, just locked up Trey Spivey is what it is. But from the Houston game standpoint, he saw those touches early, and then we saw nothing else for the rest of the game. So I think that the concern from the fan standpoint, guys like me and Kevin, is we're sitting here and being like, why is he almost leaving the game plan as we approach the second half? And not that the game plan wasn't working, because the offense was humming in that game.
I was going to say 24 of 26 from Noah Fafita. Like, there's nothing more you can ask for that. But then again, you have to think about it like this. Arizona only had the ball twice in the second half.
Yeah.
They had 2 possessions the entire second half. Wow. Like, I understand what you guys are saying, but man, that was such a weird game last.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. You bring up you almost forget the 2 possessions thing, like, because it's such an astonishing stat, but that's how the defense could not get off the field in the game.
Well, and not only that, but what's crazy is Arizona won time of possession. They had the ball longer than Houston, and yet it felt like Houston clobbered them when it came to time of possession. So it was just such a weird game. But yeah, more Trey Spivey. Yes, that needs to be a thing for Arizona. But yeah, when you only have 2 possessions in the second half, man, that's really tough to do. And then one of the possessions, first one, it resulted in him with that jet sweep touchdown on the goal line.
And I think, when I ask you where is Trey Spivey, and I ask you, are we going to see more Trey Spivey against Colorado, I'm not really coming at Seth Dagey. I'm not really saying that, we need to force the ball to Trey Spivey even if other stuff is working. But what I am saying is, he shouldn't be having as low amount of targets as he has, in my opinion, for the season. I think there's ways to work him in to these offensive performances where, hell, put him on a jet sweep. He's effective there. Just get the ball in his hands. And I feel like he will show you why he's supposed to be out on that field. But, Damon, what else we got for Justin before we get on out of here today?
Nothing much. I think Justin appreciates a good visual. Let's look at the Big 12 standings, projected standings by Kelly Ford through each week this season. Arizona starts off as one of the most underrated teams, I would say, in the entire conference. And maybe Arizona isn't that 8th place team that they were at their highest this season, but I definitely think that they're more that 8th place team than they are the 13th place team that they currently have us rated as, below lowly UCF, which really hurts. So this is, it just goes to show really, I think how different this season could be, where Arizona could be on this. If, they were able to just get those last 2 W's, even one of them would have changed the entire season. But yeah, that's a sad one to look at. Real roller coaster ride.
That's tough, man. That's tough. But, it honestly just kind of shows just how good the Big 12 is, right?
Yep.
The Wildcats are still, I think, in my opinion, a team that's an upper half team in the Big 12. And now here they are behind UCF. I don't agree with that. I think UCF isn't nearly as good of a team as Arizona, but yeah, this league from top to bottom is as good as it gets. It's like 1 through 15, solid. Oklahoma State, they're just kind of an anomaly. They're just kind of off doing their own thing, but they have great fan support, man. Love the bananas. Love the banana section that they have. But yeah, I think by season's end, I think Arizona will be much higher than where they're at right now.
I certainly hope so, Justin. And I think, we'll be here either step of the way, win or lose. We'll be talking about our Cats. That's what we do every week with our guy, Justin Spears, as well. Kevin?
Real quick, you mentioned Oklahoma State and the fan support and the lack of shirts. Did you see that they renamed the section?
No.
So that is section 231. They renamed it and they changed the plaque. I don't know if that's permanent or temporary, but to 231 as opposed to 231.
231. Oh, I love that. That's punny.
Yeah.
That's a great dad joke.
That's all I got for you. I figured you'd appreciate that.
That's classic Spears and Kevin link up right there. That's what these guys bond over, that kind of stuff. But appreciate you as always, Justin. We'll be previewing a little bit more in depth the Colorado game next week with you, of course. And of course, in the meantime, you can follow all of Justin's great work on Twitter at Justin Esports every weekday morning with Ali Farhang on Spears and Ali, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Tucson, and great written work as well on Tucson.com for the Arizona Daily Star. Thank you so much, Justin, and we appreciate your time as always, my guy.
You guys smell that up, dog?
What's up, dog?
Not much. What's going on with you?
Damn. He got me. He got me. Who could have seen that one coming?
That was a Chael Sonnen-esque performance from Justin Spears right there to end it. I don't know if you have. Here's your verbal meme of the day. That Chael Sonnen FaceTime with Dana White, where he's like, "What's 6 foot tall, dashing, and just left you on red," or something like that. And he hangs up, and then the thing freezes, and Dana goes, "Oh, he froze right at the punchline." Oh, you hate to see it, but it has been another great AZ Wildcats podcast, and that you love to see, especially on a Wednesday. We don't usually do shows on Wednesday. It's a bye week, folks, so we are here on a Wednesday. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here Friday, not Saturday, not Sunday. We'll be back on Monday covering that Embry-Riddle exhibition game. Very, very excited about that. Must-win game for head coach Tommy Lloyd? I don't know. You tell me. David, what we got before we get on out of here?
I'm trying to see Bryce James drop double-digit points against Embry-Riddle on Monday. You guys show up with me Monday, post-game show for Embry-Riddle. But in the meantime, we're going to be live tomorrow, 2 p.m., a regularly scheduled showtime the rest of the week, Thursday and Friday. I appreciate everybody for being here. Kevin, now, we didn't talk about it at all, but I just got to say, anything from Big 12 Media Day, Basketball Media Day today that you wanted to mention real quick before we get out of here?
I'll probably catch up on it mostly after the show. I did want to shout out Tommy Lloyd for putting some respect on Arizona basketball, the program, spreading the good gospel that Arizona is a premier program in this conference. Check out our Twitter at PHNX_Wildcats for that quote graphic. Be on the lookout for more content related to Arizona Basketball Media Day. Yeah, that's really all I got for you. Oh, I did want to shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in today. We love each and every one of you guys for spending time with us every single day, talking about our favorite Big 12 program, the Arizona Wildcats, our blood brothers and sisters.
One day I'm just gonna pull out like an actual
scalpel. Oh, Damon! Oh God! Bear down! Go Cats! Yeah, but shout out to each and every one of you guys. We really genuinely, from the bottom of our hearts, appreciate all the support from the non-MVP members to the MVP members, especially the MVP members. We appreciate you guys tuning in every single day and spending at least an hour of your lives with us 5 days a week. And that's it for me, Damon. That's all I got till tomorrow.
It's going to do it for me and Kevin. You can follow Kevin at KevoPost. You can follow me at Damon Dog. You can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. And, of course, rate and review on your favorite podcasting platform. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Appreciate everybody for watching. Great show today. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Until next time, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats!
We all silly like the mayor.